reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. MMO Reporter's PAX 2012 coverage is brought to you by Guild Launch. Slay more dragons with Guild Launch. So I'm lucky to be here once again at the Tryon booth talking to none other than Scott Hartsman, executive producer for Rift. First time meeting you. It's pretty awesome to finally get to chat about Rift. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming by.
So, it's been over a year now since the launch of Rift. It was a pretty successful launch. What was it like looking at the big picture and getting to see this groundswell? Because it started pretty small. Yeah. Not a lot of people knew about it. And then it seemed like each beta weekend, you'd get this buzz going and bigger and buzz. So what was that like on your end of things to see that?
It was really interesting for us. I mean, because the beta was there to do a couple of different things. It was there not just to introduce progressively more and more people to the game. Behind the scenes, what it was a progressive scale test for the game, and it was also, most importantly, launch rehearsals. We treated our first beta as we went, we had the actual final checklist of all the launch steps, including wiping databases and everything, and we just nailed that entire list every single time we did a beta launch. And it was the first time I've ever launched an MMO where the first beta was more stressful than the final launch, because we had just done it 8 times. And once you've done something for the 8th time, it just worked like a machine. So yeah, it worked out really well.
But you didn't just do the same thing a whole bunch of times. Yeah. There were some pretty substantial changes to the game with the event system, the zone event system, and all that. What was, that adds more stress. You're taking more time changing stuff. So what was the thoughts behind actually doing that during the betas rather than just polishing what you already had?
So that is a great question. So we have a super engaged team with Rift, more so than any MMO I've worked on in the past. We had more developers that were actively involved with our alpha test audience than ever before. And when we ran these beta events, what we had done was, this idea came out of development, was to assign one human being developer to every beta server in 8-hour shifts. So there was always a developer on that beta 24/7, and we gave everybody freedom to run dynamic, hand-spawned events for players. And we realized that yes, we did have this pretty great base game, but the thing that people were really falling in love with was dynamic invasion, stuff getting taken over. Holy crap, there's real danger in this game. So after, I believe it was about the second beta, we just had we were able to shut down, and those little dead periods in between betas were critical for us, because we sat down, we all realized that this thing we had been doing by hand should really be what this game is all about. It's what the back end was built to do from the outset, but the betas were what really gave us that push over the edge to, no guys, this is the one place we cannot be conservative. We can't settle for just polishing what's there. We've got to take it to the next step forward and turn this into a real thing. And yeah, if it wasn't for the beta players and wasn't for the development engagement, we never would have, we never would have gotten there. Or we would have gotten there too late.
I remember, I don't remember who it was that we had on the show, but we had someone on and we were talking during the beta periods about people talking in the zone chat, what's going on, no events are going on, and then the developer would go, boom, and the whole zone would explode. I mean, that must have been an incredible amount of fun to be watching the chat, and then, you guys are bored? Oh, okay, here you go, boom.
Yep, exactly. And so it was, like I said, we had all the core parts in place for that. We just didn't have the advanced scheduler and the advanced ability for the server to detect when events would get played and which events to fire off when. And so yeah, like I said, it became just almost no choice. We just had to do it.
So you've got your 10th patch coming out in the next little while. 10 patches, major patches in just over a year of game time. That's quite a bit. Now we're getting into Storm Legion too, so that's really exciting. Crucia's taken over the world, trying to take over the world. What can we expect to see change a little bit in Talara now that Crucia's influence is going to start to be felt?
So sure, so the big Prelude patch is going to be all about Crucia's escape from under the ice in Iron Pine Peak, where she's currently being held. Players will get to see and play through that in the Prelude. pre-orderers will also be able to play through the first dungeon in the expansion too, which is going to be it's kind of a neat thing. It's a neat way to do a larger scale test, but it's also a great way to really reward loyal people with an early look at the content. And so that's obviously going to change the way Iron Pine Peak is. The Defiance and the Guardians, they kind of come together a little bit more, as we take our final step toward letting them play together at all times. As we laid out in a producer's letter really early on this year for us, we really wanted to push the concept of MMOs need to be about play with all your friends all the time. We did it with Instant Adventure, and mentoring was a part of that, and now dropping the hard factional boundaries between players. So, if you're a Defiant, you can go make a Guardian alt and join the same guild. You can, it's more about bringing people together and letting them play together. And so this is going to be the fictional step of the Defiants and the Guardians kind of coming together to beat this one horrific enemy.
So has that been something that you've had in mind, the removal of the hard faction boundary for a while? We've seen mercenaries start to come in PvP. Yeah. Was that something you knew you were going there, so you were introducing it little by little, or was that just something that worked well, so you decided to run with it?
We felt that we should go there, but we weren't as confident in just making it all go away at once, right? What we did want to, at the end of the day, we became we made a conscious switch from having the lore dictate how we treated the gameplay systems to having good gameplay and no waiting dictate gameplay. For instance, mercenaries were primarily introduced, yes, there was the fictional side of it, but they were primarily introduced as a way to make queue times practically instant. And when we did that, queuing went from a horrible, horrible thing to generally seconds or minutes. So we consider that to be a huge success also. So it's more about taking the focus, now that people understand the core story. Remember, the part of the reason for the hard boundary in the first place was we were a brand new IP, nobody knew what a Guardian was, nobody knew what a Defiant was, and that really reinforced it. That doesn't need reinforcing as much anymore. So now it's time to focus on, look, play with your friends, be in the same guild, it's okay.
And it just from a strictly gameplay perspective as well, it's going to be interesting because now all of a sudden you're going to get this, the people feel so attached to their faction. Right. You're going to have the people who will join in because it's all about the gameplay. You'll still have the people, oh no, I'm not going to group with the Guardian because they've got that. So that must be nice to think that you're going to see that in game as a natural thing rather than something that you've had to impose.
And that's exactly it too, because one of the things that even we saw from role players early on was, wait, I'm on a role play server. I want to role play a traitorous Guardian. Why won't you let me? I want to role play a sympathetic Defiant who's got a brother who's a Guardian, and so on. And it's like, well, now you can. It's just more options.
Awesome. So, Storm Legion, of what we already know about the game, what are you most excited about playing once the game goes live? Or about, if you want to announce something that hasn't been announced yet, we can. It's just between us.
Oh, yeah.
We won't say anything.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I got to tell you, I have been practically living on our beta server lately. I'm enjoying a lot of things there. The first thing is the way we changed up the way content works post-expansion is really interesting to me. It's less about you walk up to a camp that's got a bunch of exclamation marks, you pick them all up, you run 4 errands, and you come back. Yes, there is one dominant story quest that does lead you through the expansion, but we reward exploration a lot more in that there's a ton more discovery quests and a ton more what we're calling carnage as a gameplay system, where you get extra rewards for killing different races of enemies out there, and so they're quests that you really don't have to turn in at all, and they also have a nice currency reward and a nice XP reward, and they kind of push you in a direction on your own, but you don't feel bad about, I see this neat thing over here, I just want to go over here now, because you'll find something else to do. But there's enough of the old static content to where if you did just static content and did both continents, you'd still make it to 60 just fine. But what we really expect is going to happen is that people will play through one continent, and then between the one continent, all the carnage, the new events, the new style rifts. We have rifts called hunt rifts now, which are more objectives, more complex, more fun, and just some of the dynamics also. We figure that it's going to now be less than optimal to try to quest your way exclusively, and more rewarding to take part in the rest of what the game has to offer. I've been playing the hell out of that. I've been spending a ton of time evaluating souls. We've gone back, in addition to the new souls that have come out, we have gone back and touched every single soul in the game, and those will actually, here, I don't know if this has been spoiled or not, but it may be. We are going to be releasing the soul revisions prior to the formal expansion launch to give people some time to play with the new expanded soul trees. And we've gone back through and we've really dealt with things that should be more fun, but were just too big of projects to take care of in live, where the entire soul would have to be rebalanced. Reducing reliance on macros for gameplay, making it so, because games are way more fun when you see something in the world, you're the smart person that makes the decision, you do the right thing, and you get a positive result. I mean, that's the core loop of fun, right? And macros take away a lot of that. And so with a lot of the class changes, that now becomes something, there's a lot that once again becomes something that's part of the human's job, not the machine's job.
Awesome. Well, really looking forward to Storm Legion, really looking to get into the beta. So thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming by.
Awesome.